sorry. I told him it was going to sink. I told everybody that. But as soon as they started with that, it's unsinkable crap. As soon as they said it's unsinkable, number one, I should sure fucking hope so. It's a boat. Number two, this boat is going to sink as soon as we leave. As soon as we pull out of the harbor, it is going down. I told everybody that because there is no reason why. That's like going to a restaurant that has a big sign out front that says, we don't have wraps. Maybe they are telling the truth, but I would much rather go somewhere else. I would feel much more comfortable going on the boat that does not feel the need to insist to me it is not possible that the boat will sink. I'm sorry, maybe I'm paranoid, but clearly I'm not. I tried to tell everybody. I tried to say, this is a fucking scam. There is something wrong with this boat. There's something wrong with this boat. And they were saying, it's the biggest boat that has ever existed in history. So what? Who cares if the boat's big? What difference does it make? Nobody can tell. There's no scale out in the ocean. There's nothing to compare it to. Every object looks the same size. There is literally nothing around. So it doesn't matter that the boat is any bigger than any other boat. It's ridiculous. And now my sister's fucking dead. It's bullshit. Now I will say, most people did not know that she existed to begin with. It's a long story. All I'm trying to say is that I would appreciate being a little bit more, people not automatically assuming that I'm some OCD freak every time that I express a genuine concern about something that could genuinely go wrong. The whole trip, everybody was telling me, you are being crazy. You need to settle down. You need to take your heroin that the doctor prescribed you, and you need to relax because this is 1911. That we are past that. I said, we aren't past the laws of fucking physics. I see those drivers, they're hicks. It was a needless tragedy. It did not need to happen. And the only reason why it happened is because they are capitalist fucking scumbags. That's the only reason. That's the only reason it happened. Nobody believes me now either. I was talking to my cobbler the other day, and I was telling him all this, and I was explaining the story of how I ended up surviving, and he looked at me, and he was like, Lord Hentschel, I don't know, that's kind of fucked up, that story. And I was like, what are you talking about now? Why is everybody shaming me for surviving a shipwreck? I did what I had to do. I'm sorry. I've just realized that I have not explained what's going on. I was on a boat from London to New York City in America, and it sank in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, the middle of fucking nowhere, the middle of the night. I don't know what happened. I still don't know. I've heard some people saying it was an iceberg. I've heard some people saying it was someone of an ethnic persuasion who did something to the boat. I don't know. I don't know any of this stuff. I don't know if it was, for all I know, it could have been some carefully orchestrated stunt, to put, I don't know. But I got a fishy feeling about it from the beginning. And if you get a fishy feeling about something, I'm sorry, it was so cold out there. It was 28 degrees. The water was 28 degrees. Do you have any idea what it's like to be submerged in 28-degree water? No, you don't. Nobody knows what that's like because it is unfathomable. It is literally unfathomable to the human mind what it would be like to be submerged in 28-degree water in the middle of a 44-degree evening. Fahrenheit, yes, Fahrenheit. You're not supposed to know what that's like. So that's why every time I tell people, the water was 28 degrees, they're like, oh my God, but they don't understand. They don't understand what it was like for me. And yet they expect me to just be normal. They don't get it. Nobody makes an effort to empathize with me. Because they're mad at me because of this whole gender politics angle, which is absolutely ridiculous. First of all, your life is not, I'm sorry, you can call me whatever you want, but a human life is not worth more because of anything about anything regarding their identity. I'm sorry. And maybe that makes me a hippie freak, a beatnik, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Sorry, I keep getting upset and not explaining what's going on, and okay. I was in London for the past year with my sister, because I was doing my magic show, The Great Hentschel, which we started in Poland, but the Polish, they are not, I don't know what it is, but magic is just not in their DNA. It was just like, so we said, let's go to London. There's a pretty good magic scene there, and then hopefully we can work our way up, and then we can go out to California, because I had a bunch of other friends who were magicians over in Europe, and they said, listen, don't come to New York. We were going to move to New York eventually, and they said, don't come out here. New York is done. LA is where it's at. Oh! 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 Good God. What is that thing? Oh my God. What is that beast? Ow! Oh my God. Where am I? What's going on? That was the scariest horse I have ever seen in my entire life. And I don't. The worst part is I don't know what's real. I don't know anymore. I've been having within the doctor told me that I have post-traumatic boat disorder, and he said just take this heroin and you'll feel better. So I've been taking it, but it's making it worse. It's making my delusions worse. I keep hallucinating that there's a narwhal that's gonna stab me in the balls. I think that almost happened. I don't know. I don't know what happened because I couldn't see anything. That's the other thing that people don't understand about the middle of the ocean. There's no lights out there. There's nothing out there. There's nothing. It is complete darkness. Do you have any idea what it's like to be in complete and total darkness? Again, no, you don't, because it is unfathomable. We are not supposed to be able to experience that. Nobody's ever been in the middle of the ocean before. The screams in the dark. I can't stop hearing them. The worst part. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. We were doing our show, The Great Hentschel, in London. It's getting hot in here. I'm sorry. I'm having a nervous breakdown. I don't know what else to call it. We were doing our show in London, The Great Hentschel. I'm sorry, I know I need to keep wearing the hat, but the hat, I cannot wait for the days when look at this giant hat. This is what this is what I have to wear, and otherwise I'm going to be ostracized in society. People are going to think I'm a poor person if I have a hat that's any smaller than this. Especially out here in America. We were in London doing our show, The Great Hentschel. And I don't want to get too specific about what the trick was, my signature trick, because that's my whole livelihood, and I'm hoping that now I can figure out a different way to do it with somebody who isn't my sister, maybe looks similar to me, but what I can tell you is that for a portion of the trick to work, we have to. First of all, nobody can know my sister exists, which was difficult, because in Poland everybody knew us, but then when we went to London, we were like, okay, fresh start. Here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna pretend you are not real, okay? And you can drink all the alcohol you want. You can go to all the opium dens you want, as long as you just keep a low profile. Which she was more than happy to do. And again, I don't want to explain how the trick works, but in order to do the trick, we have to gender swap. So during the show, we have to do a quick change in under 60 seconds where I get in drag with a wig and all that, and I look like my sister, and my sister has to put on a bald cap and look like this. And we have 60 seconds to do that, which is very, very difficult because it's very elaborate. So we have gotten pretty good at it, but we still need to practice every night. So every night we do the show Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's when we do the show, and obviously we rehearse during the show. But then every other night we will run the quick change, and practice, and I'll get my stopwatch and I'll say we're a little over. We gotta move it along here. So a lot of times what my sister will do every night is just sort of get in drag, and not take it off, because she's supposed to be me anyway. So it doesn't really matter as much for her, So she'll just go on, proceed with her evening of debauchery, and then sleep in it, and then wake up and take it off the next day and then be normal, So one night we were getting ready to, because the show was closing in London, so we were getting ready to go back to America. And I had been to here's another thing that people they really tend to minimize is mental health struggles. Because I have something called melancholy, which is something that we really don't understand, but it is a disease. I tried to do away with myself several times when I was in London. First of all, because it's a fucking shithole, so everybody in London tries to do away with themselves. But with me, it was especially difficult. Went to the doctor, and he prescribed me heroin, which was very nice. And he said, you know what, you got to take this until you're able to move to California, because California is going to solve all your problems. It's sunny there, so it's going to fix that. And he was right. I mean, check this out. It's pretty awesome, And also, I had a bunch of magician friends, who there was a situation with Thomas Edison. It's a very long story. But point is, LA was the place to be for a young feller like me looking to make it big in show business, right? And the one thing I said was, I am not doing any of that silent movie crap. I am not sure if those have been invented yet. I got to be careful what I say, right? But if they have not, there's something called a silent movie. You know what? Just forget about it. I have something called a gift of prophecy. That's one of the things that makes me a very good magician, right? I can sort of, and I have a feeling that had something to do with me being able to predict that the humongo, I don't remember what the name of the boat was, the gigantic, the SS Big Boy, something like that. It was something about, it's a cute, stupid name, self-referential. I hate that stupid fucking irony crap. Self-referential about how big it was. Again, nobody cares. Size does not matter that much. It doesn't. Let me ask you this. Would you rather get on a very large boat and die, or a small boat and live? Yeah, me too. Anyway, California. We were all set to go on a normal boat. All of a sudden, one night, I'm trying to sleep because we have to share the same. London is a shithole. Have I mentioned that yet? It's an absolute dump. It sucks. If you are a rat, you have a better lifestyle than a human being in London. It's just the truth. So we lived in this tiny, and it wasn't an economical thing. We were doing pretty well with the show. I'm considered an aristocrat. That's why I have this hat. But that's just the way that it is there. It's awful. Every night all we had was a big curtain that would separate our sides of the room. So I would have to draw the curtain and then try to go to bed. And then my sister would roll in, after spending time at the brothel and be loud with whatever Joe Schmo she'd brought from the street. But I had gotten pretty used to it because I said to the doctor, can you prescribe me something for my sleeping problems? He was like, heroin. It solves everything. And it really does, honestly. So most of the time it was okay. But one night she came home and she was being particularly loud. And she had brought a feller with her. And they were bumping around and they were doing all this. And so I lit a candle and I said, who goes there? And she said, it's just me, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, you need to keep it down. And she said, no, actually, it's good that you're up. This guy, I don't remember his name, but she said, this guy is a steel worker. And I said, oh, yeah, I bet he is. I could tell based on the fact that he looks like he was recently a part of the street. And she said, no, he's a steel worker that has been working on that thing on the dock across the street from the theater. The whole past year we've been doing the show, we've been having a severe problem because there's a noise issue. Because they were working on some giant thing, hammering at all hours of the day, and it was bleeding into the theater. I wouldn't mind it if it was during the day, but they stay because they don't, they haven't invented labor laws yet. So they were working until 3:00 in the morning, and they're all children. So not only were they hammering really loud during our show times, but they were also screaming. And I walked over there so many times and I said, excuse me, you have got to be quiet because we're trying to do a show in here and we can hear your hammering and screaming while we're trying to do the magic act. And magic requires a very, very, very sensitive calibration of the vibe. Otherwise, it is not going to work. They didn't care, of course. So the only thing we could do was try to make the banging part of the show. So we got a guy who had a big gong, and the whole thing was, and I said, well, that'll add mystique, it'll be exotic. Just bang the gong every 5 seconds, and so that'll blend in. And then, so he would bang the gong and I'd be like, oh, are you ready to have your senses, all that stuff. And it ended up working out okay. I mean, in the end, it was one of those things that was sort of a happy accident because I was like, okay, well, it sort of added to the show. And I was like, okay, well, fine. I mean, I sometimes you just got to roll with the punches like that, especially in show business. But anyways, we were constantly wondering because all they would do is hammer. And we had no idea what the hell the thing was because it just looked like a bunch of big bulls, like piles of sticks. We had no idea. I said, because I'm a very smart guy, I said, maybe it's a boat. That would make sense why they're at the dock. But again, a boat doesn't need to be this big. I don't understand if it's a boat, why it needs to be this big. So then I thought maybe it's the Statue of Liberty. Was that done yet? Statue of Liberty, 1911. Sorry, I was out because I have an issue where I have all this information and I forget sometimes what is a prophecy that I have seen and what it has actually happened yet. I apologize. But then I said, well, maybe it's something. Maybe it's a big statue. So I thought it was a statue. And that was sort of when we started all in the back of the theater, we were like betting on it, they're like, I bet it's a statue, I bet it's a boat, I bet it's a, Anyway, my sister says, this guy has been working on it, and he says, it's a boat. So my sister's right, so I had to give her 10 shillings, She said, this is a boat. And I said, okay, well, that's great. Well, clearly you don't understand ambient room volume. Clearly, you don't understand how loud things should be because you've been hammering very loud across the venue and it's ruined our show. And you're also being very, very loud in this room right now. So that tells me that you do not know how to adequately adjust your volume to the space that you're in this situation, which I do because I'm a natural performer. I'm a natural entertainer. So that's the best skill that I have. I'm like so I laser focus on that kind of stuff. So she was like, no, listen, this is very interesting. You have to listen to him. And he said, we have been working on the biggest boat in the world. It's going to be huge. It's going to be unsinkable. And that right away, I was like, bam, 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 we're at a scam alert. Unsinkable, he said. But I kind of like boats. I like boats. I'm kind of interested in that stuff. I'm interested in the sea, all that. So I was like, okay, all right. I was also on heroin, so I was just like, yeah, sure, whatever, God, just keep talking. I don't care. I'm sorry. I'm sweating my ass off in this area. So I need to open to allow the wind. That nice California air. How about that, huh? Can't get that in London. Oh, bruv. So, I was sort of listening to him talk about this boat, and then he said something which really piqued my interest, which was, this boat is going to be all over the news. This boat is a huge news story. And I was like, oh, really? That's interesting. Because we're always looking, and we're always trying to look for ways to get our message out there, He was like, yes, I can get you. Your sister was telling me all about your magic act. And I was like, what? You told him the secret to our fucking magic show? That really pissed me off. But so I got upset, and I said, you get the fuck out of my house, or I'm going to beat you to death. Because now you have the information to undo my entire life. And he said, no. I'm not going to tell anybody because we can help each other. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not really into that stuff. I know that sometimes there's some people who are into that, but I have a very firm line between that stuff. And he was like, no. I mean, in a sense of publicity. I can get you in the first class cabin, and imagine this, the great Hentschel boarding the Titanic, in the magic vessel. He was selling me on it. He was a very good salesman. And I actually said, it's a shame because he died too. And I sort of was going to make him when we were going to do our new show in LA, I was like, you should come be our consigliere. What do they call that? What do they call it? The guy I should know this because it's my industry, but I'm forgetting them, blanking on the name. Ingenieur. That's what it is. Oh, I'm so happy I remembered that. I'm so smart. I said, you can be our ingenieur, when we get back to America. He's dead. So I have to find a new sister. But my sister was kind of just a prop anyway. That's what I was trying to tell myself. Of course, I mean, it's sad because now I don't have anybody to talk to every day. So that part. But I think that's just my sort of emotional longing. I can get over that. You can get over that stuff. You just got to find somebody else to talk to. And we had an unhealthy relationship anyway. I sort of leaned on her for a little bit too much, and so whatever. It's water under the bridge. It's boat under the water. Sorry, that was a little insensitive. So I said, okay, that's interesting, and I saw the vision. I saw his vision. I said, okay, great Hentschel. I could see that in the newspaper. A magician magically makes a boat go from London to New York or something of that nature. We could figure something out, So I said, okay, fine, let's do it. I really don't care. I mean, a boat's a boat, right? So as long as it gets you from London to America, doesn't matter to me, What I will say is that I would not normally have done first class, unless it was free. And I don't want you to think that I'm some rich asshole, right? I'm not. I mean, I'm doing okay for myself, but I'm not. Just because I have this hat does not mean that I don't understand what plagues the working class. Okay, I just want to make sure you understand that because now people are also getting on my ass about the whole class politics of the whole thing. And I was trying to explain to people, because I was in the boat, everybody was getting real feisty when we were in the lifeboats. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, I started to, as the date approached that we were supposed to go on the maiden voyage, I was getting a little nervous because of, like I said, the amount of people who were insisting that the boat could not possibly sink. It was getting to a degree where I started to get suspicious. It's like I explained earlier. I was not necessarily thinking that it was, So the fact that you keep saying it over and over again is making me a little nervous. And that's when I started to have some reservations about it, because I said, listen, I don't know if this seems like it's a marketing gimmick. I'm getting a bad feeling about these people. They just don't, and I couldn't tell you how to explain it. It's just, I like to think that I have a very good judge of character. And I was just starting to get a little queasy about the whole thing, But of course my sister's dumb. She does not have that at all. Again, that's why she's basically a mannequin in the show. And I'm the brains of the whole thing. That's the way it kind of goes with Polish people. It's a 50-50 chance. Either you're going to be, Nikola Tesla, or you're going to be a guy who shovels shit for a living. There's no in between. I'm allowed to say that. So, of course, because here's the thing. A lot of times I'm right. And in multiple stories, I think that I've told to you, I believe that has been a recurring theme. People do not believe me when I try to, because they think that I'm some neurotic weirdo. And they say, oh, you're suspicious or unfounded, don't worry about it. So I honestly got a little gaslit, which is going to be I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I believe that there was a very, very good, I know that you probably haven't heard that word before. There was a very, very good play that I believe is already out, called Gaslight. You should see it, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's very good. And I don't know if it's out already, if it's going to come out, I'm not sure. But it's very good. So I was starting to sort of get I was feeling a little bit like maybe you are right. I mean, plenty of boats go across the ocean and they don't sink. So that was my whole point to begin with. It's just the fact that they started bringing up the fact that it wasn't going to sink. I would have never worried about it unless they were like, don't worry, it's not going to happen. All right, I've hammered that point to death. We don't have to keep beating around the bush. But so I said, all right, fine. I mean, fine. The day comes, there's some kind of issue with the workers, because that started setting me off too, because I was talking to one of the workers and the workers were like, we're going on strike. And I was like, why? And they said, well, because of the white line or whatever it's called. The fleet, the white line fleet, Gold Star, there's some sort of labor issue, and so I was like, oh, really? That's interesting. That started making me nervous too, because you don't want people to stop. Oh my God. There's some sort of large box behind me that is moving with eyeballs. And he's putting something in a... Ow! It's some sort of dinosaur. Or moose of some sort. I gotta write that down. I've been writing down all the weird stuff I've been seeing out here. And I don't know if it's just a California thing. Oh, where's my quill? Well, don't let me forget that. Strange moose that's big and white and square. Don't let me forget that. All right. Labor issue on the boat. So that sort of made me go, My sister's like, no, don't worry about it. And it's too late. Because the boat that we were going to go on before, we have a deadline now because I've booked us in a theater in Hollywood, which, if you haven't heard, that's a new neighborhood they're opening up. It's kind of desolate, but I have but what I keep trying to tell people is that the neighborhood of course there's nothing in it now, but if you're enterprising, you can bring the life to it that it needs, right? So if people see the great Hentschel is doing his show in Hollywood, they're gonna be like, oh, we got to go to Hollywood. Let's build a strip mall there, or let's build a haberdashery there, so on and so forth. But she was right. It was too late. We couldn't change the plans now. The only other plan would be to wait for the next boat to go across the ocean. And at a certain point, I was like, just get us there. I just want to get there, because not only do we have to go, it's going to be a week before we get to New York, and then we got to go in a fucking horse-drawn buggy for another month to get out to LA, and then we got to go over the fucking, if we go too late, then it's going to be wintertime, and you saw what happened to the other people who tried to do that. So we needed to keep it moving. We needed to keep on schedule. And I admit that I should not have sacrificed safety for expedity. For expediousness. That's my bad. But all right. So we leave, and already bad start, because we very nearly crash into another boat leaving the harbor. Literally, we hadn't even gone a half mile. And I was thankfully, I was on the deck because I like to watch the ocean, but my sister didn't see it because she was inside, probably getting a buffet or something. And I was trying to explain to her, okay, we're in trouble. We are in deep shit because they don't even know how to drive this thing. They almost hit another boat. And she was like, oh, it wasn't that bad. I didn't feel anything, blah, 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 blah. You're overreacting, blah, blah, blah. Annoyed me. But there was nothing I could do because now we're in the ocean. And it's not like we can get off at the next stop. The only choice, we have two options. Go to New York, turn around. And if we're going to be out in the middle of the ocean on a boat anyway, I would much rather get to where I'm going, So I was like, okay, fine, I'll shut my pretty little lips and I'll just wait, And it was decent. I mean, we had a good time. All the days before the ship sank, it was very nice. We made some good friends. They had good food. First class was nice. First class can only get so good because you're still, no matter how much money you spend, you're still going to be on a room in a boat. So that it's still going to be going like this. And I hate that when it rocks around. Well, thankfully I had my heroin, so that didn't make it too bad. But it's just the first class. But the first class is nice for the amenities, so the food was nice, and the general respect, being respected is something that money cannot buy. Well, it is, but what I mean is it's priceless. That's what I mean. So everything was good. And we were still running because we couldn't quite get the timing of the makeup quick change right. So we were running drills every night still. And, I was sort of because I was getting nervous because I was like, we need to, we have to be unparalleled, or, well, yes, but also we need to, attention to detail is of the utmost importance, because all these other hack magicians, they don't pay attention to detail. They don't care about the little things. They don't have that perfectionist streak that I have. And so I was kind of being a whip cracker, and I was saying, we need to get this. It's not good enough. We need it tighter. It needs to be tighter, and we need to do it better. The makeup doesn't look right. I know that we can do this. I know that we can get it in the right amount of time, and that we don't have to sacrifice how it looks. We just got to keep hitting it. And of course she was like, I want to go and dance on the thing, and then I was like, we can do that after we get this right. One drill a night. That's all I asked. So we were running the drills, and then I would get the stopwatch, and we would do the makeup looks, on each other. We started to get pretty damn good at it. I go to bed pretty early. But at the same time, you have to remember, we're in the middle of the ocean. So I have no idea what time it is. That's another thing people I don't think really understand is that, you know, it going from London to New York on a boat, forget it. You could have told me it was any time and I would have believed you. So it's not like we have a clock. I mean, they have the big thing, but I don't know how to read that shit. I don't know how to read the thing with the, you know, the numbers. So I just stopped paying attention to what time it was. Honestly, I was like, is the sun up or is it down? All right, fine. Am I hungry or am I not hungry? You know, you just sort of go with your intuition. So one night, again, it was pretty smooth sailing for most of the trip. And then we started to see, it started to get very cold and windy. And I was having a hard time staying out on the deck because I like to go out on the deck as much as possible because I like to look at the ocean. It's magnificent, you know. And I was starting to see some little ice chunks in the water, which concerned me, you know, because I was like, well, I don't know what this thing is ice rated for, you know. And it's supposed to be springtime, so I had not really foreseen the possibility of there being ice, but I guess it made sense because we were sort of going up and around and by you know, whatever it's called up there. I don't know. Canada. Does that exist yet? So it not only was I was nervous, and also it was cold and windy. And all I had, remember, was this hat. So this hat is not very insulating. So I went inside and I went in my room and I said, you know what? I'm just going to practice the makeup drill again. Sorry, I'm getting hot again. I'm just going to keep running the drill on myself because I know that I can get this better. I was having an issue with basically getting it's hard to explain. But I was having an issue and I was like, I'm just going to keep doing it until I get it right. All of a sudden, I heard a very loud boom. And I was like, what the fuck was that? I went outside, opened my door, and I'm looking around, you know. I don't see anybody. So I go out into the hallway. There's a couple other people around who are like, what the hell was that? And one of the bell boys or the servants was like, oh, somebody just dropped a mop or something. You know, they were doing something in the boiler room and something happened. Nothing to see here, nothing to worry about. And I was like, are you sure? Because that sure sounded like we hit something. It sounded like we hit something. I mean, that's just the truth. I don't know for sure because, again, I couldn't see what was going on very well because it was completely dark. But it sure as hell sounded like we hit something. And you could feel it, too. You could feel the whole boat sort of go like, boom, you know. But, of course, the you know, scam artists, you know, con men were like, no. And even if we did even if we did hit something, the guy actually said this. He said, even if we did hit something, it would be fine because this ship is unsinkable, remember? And I said, okay, all right, if you insist. But at the same time, I didn't really believe him. And I'll be honest with you, I forgot that I was dressed like a woman. I'll be totally honest. You know, I sort of I even am forgetting now as I'm remembering what happened. So that's another reason why I don't think you can necessarily shift too much moral blame on me for it. Because it's not like I did it on purpose, and it's not like I was aware of what I was doing, but anyway. So he was like, ma'am, just go back to bed. You're going to be fine. I was like, ma'am. And I said, oh, yeah. But I don't want to ruin the magic trick, right? Because I don't know if this guy, word could get out, you know, that Titanic, the great Hentschel, you know, gave away all of his secrets on the Titanic, or the Humongo, or whatever it's called. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of it. So I was not completely satisfied. But also my makeup look involves me being in a nightgown. So I'm sort of like, I mean, it's fine on stage, but if you're getting up close and personal, that starts to get a little dicey. So I was like, all right, well, I don't want too many people to see me like this. So I'm gonna, not for any, it's mostly just because I don't want people to know the secret. So I went back into my room. And I was like, all right, well, the guy said there's no problem. I was like, I guess there's no problem. But I start to get a little, I sort of feel uneasy in a physical way. And it really feels like, to me, listing is what they call it on a boat, when a boat starts to turn like this. It was very, very subtle, but at the same time, I could feel it. And I thought I was kind of going crazy, so I took more heroin, and that calmed me down for a little bit. But then it really, and I started to hear people running around up above on the ceiling. So for them, that would have been the floor. But people were starting to run around, blah, 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 blah. I come out of my room. And people are starting to look. The same servant now has a look of visible distress. Yet the words that are coming out of his mouth are not matching the fear in his eyes, because he is saying, ma'am, we are going to do an exercise. We want you to get your life jacket and come up to the deck for an exercise. And I was like, what are you talking about, an exercise? What kind of exercise? I don't know. I mean, it's the middle of the night. I'm about to go to bed, I think. I don't remember what time it is, but I have a feeling. And he was like, there's absolutely nothing to worry about. And I said, I know you keep telling me there's nothing to worry about, but you're not answering my question. What kind of fucking drill requires me to get... what kind of drill on a boat requires me to get a life vest and go up to the deck, other than the boat is sinking? And he said, ma'am, I promise you there's nothing to worry about. Just pack a few things and get your life jacket, come up to the deck. So at that point, I was like, there is no doubt in my mind that this boat is sinking. And I need to get the fuck off of here. And I'm sorry, but that's sort of why my version of the story is not very exciting, because I was actually proactive. A lot of the people, because again, fear can be a good motivator. Fear can be a good, if it's in correct doses, paranoia and fear can allow you to be prepared. If there's one thing that's good about it, it will give you preparation, and you will be the first person off the humongo, because you're not going to say... My sister had this whole chillax attitude. I was freaking out at this point. I ran down the hallway to go to my sister's room, and I knocked on her door. And I also was trying to keep in mind, like, we have to keep the illusion going. So I was like, I kept being like, sister or brother, the ship is sinking. And she said, that's not possible. They said that couldn't happen. And I said, well, it's happening. Did you hear that big loud bang earlier, about an hour ago? And she said, yeah, but I thought they said somebody dropped a mop. And I said, I know they said that, but that's not... These people are con artists, and something's wrong, and we need to get up there, and we need to get on one of the lifeboats. And she said, well, don't you think we're going to be more safe in here rather than a little tiny... I mean, I could see the lifeboats when we were up, and they were very small. Remember, we're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It's completely dark. So it's very interesting, because your instincts tell you that you're safer on the boat with the lights and all the people and the nice heat and the furnace and the plates, and the balcony and the railing and the violin people, Your body is telling you, I am safer because this is a building, but it is not a building. And you have to override your senses and say, this is an illusion of safety. I am safer on the lifeboat. But unfortunately, so I did manage to get, I brought my sister up to the top, the deck. And once we were up there, she kind of started to get it. You know, there were some people who were holding out, like everything's going to be fine. But as soon as we got to the deck, we were like, that is not fine. This is enough. This is bedlam. The ship literally, you had to go like this. It was like, that movie hasn't come out yet. Inception. A movie? All right, movies haven't been invented yet. It was like you were walking around, you know, you were like this, and you were like, whoa, you know. There was no doubt in anyone's mind the boat was sinking. The question is now, how do we approach this situation? Again, like I said, it is very, very, very difficult to motivate yourself to get off of a big boat and go into a much smaller boat in the middle of the night when it's 40 degrees out and the water's 28 degrees. So I had forgotten that I was dressed as a woman and my sister was dressed as a man. So they were saying, okay, women and children first. Let's get the women and children into the lifeboats, you know. And any man who tried to get in a lifeboat was getting shot. They shot a guy who tried to get in a lifeboat with his mother and or his sister or whatever the hell it was, his kid, you know. And so I was trying to explain to everybody. Well, I guess I'll be honest here. I was sort of in survival mode, right? So the way that I approached it with my sister, I said, okay, listen. I pulled her aside and I said, we don't have to tell them that I am dressed as a woman, but we have to explain your situation. And then that way we can both get off of here. We'll say that we're sisters. And so she was trying to explain to the people. It was very hectic. She was trying to explain to the people, and she started to say, I am dressed as a man. I'm part of a magic show. And I was like, shut up. No, you don't have to say. And I said, try to explain that try to think of some reason why you would be dressed as a man that has nothing to do with magic or the great Hentschel. Do not mention my name at all. She was trying to explain it to them, but they were not having it because I honestly I'll tell you, I'll be totally honest with you. I know that nobody knows how to prepare themselves in an emergency and nobody knows how they're going to react in a situation like this, but these people were not equipped to deal with a situation of this magnitude, an emergency of this magnitude, which was becoming rapidly illuminated to me. Because, again, like I said, they never thought in a million years the boat was going to sink. So they weren't prepared for the reality of that situation. They had no idea how to deal with crowd control. They had no idea how to deal with triage. You know, they didn't have enough lifeboats. The lifeboats that they did have, they were sending off the side half full just because they were like, just get people off. And then they also had guns. So they were just shooting anybody who had any kind of issue with what they were doing. So I want to explain something to you before I tell the next part of the story. My entire life, I was bullied. My entire life, I felt worthless. My entire life, I felt like I did not have meaning or purpose because of who I was inside. And then when I found out that I was born to entertain people, that I found that. I realized my gifts are to be used to entertain others. That's when I found magic. And then finally it all made sense. It all made sense. And you have no idea what it's like to slave away for years, to build a brand, to finally have a trick that everybody loves and nobody knows how you do it, you know? It's unlike any feeling. Unlike any feeling at all. As a matter of fact, it is the only time that I'm happy. It is the only feeling in my life that gives it any meaning at all. So, I pushed my sister off the deck because well, all right, I did not, that makes it sound like there was a lot of hubbub. There was a lot happening. Everybody was scrambling all around. And she is not crucial to the show. She's not crucial to anybody. And I'll say this. I was doing the mental calculation in my head, let alone my stuff. Of course, I love being a magician. I want to be famous. I don't want her to ruin the act. But also, there were families with children and crying and, all this stuff. And if she got on the boat, that would be one less mother or one less child who wasn't able to be saved. So, I don't know. The world didn't really lose a lot. She had no one who loved her. She did not love anyone. So, you have to make very difficult decisions in moments like that, in emergencies. And I pray to God that none of you will ever be in a situation where you have to decide between a child and a mother or your sister. I pray to God none of you are ever in a situation where you have to evaluate the worth of people's lives and rank them accordingly. And I'll tell you, when we were paddling past, we came upon her frozen body. And I'll tell you, her face was peaceful. I could tell, I know her. I could tell the look on her face was this, she agreed that this was the right call. You can just feel that. So, the rest of it was kind of cool, honestly. I mean, it was kind of cool being out in the middle of the ocean and seeing the ship, the ship crack in half. I mean, it was a little scary, but at the same time, it was amazing. It was unlike anything that I will ever see again or have ever seen. It was pretty cool. A lot of stars in the sky that we could not see because I believe it was cloudy. Anyway, check out my show, The Great Hentschel. We are starting next week in Hollywood. It's going to be magnificent. And don't get on a boat if they have to insist that it's not going to sink. Pip, pip, cheerio. That's something they used to say in London.